So, real quickly, I'd like to describe how eating and sleeping, if I get to that part quickly enough, but how eating with an eye camera and neural monitoring tech implants, how all of that can make eating a funny game to the people who have access to the eye camera. And I guess I'm just gonna start by saying that in the begin, so I have heard that I was poisoned from birth. That there was a list of over 100 things that my dad wrote down that he had that he administered to me to try to poison me with. One of those things was like antifreeze. And this is what my mom told me. And I think other people also told me this, that whenever I was like a baby or toddler, that the feds had to, they kind of like raided my parents' house or something like that. And and this would have been both of my biological parents, because they were together for a little bit, until I was like 7, I think. But I guess they'd written down like 100 things that they'd tried to poison me with, and that none of them had actually succeeded in killing me or whatever. And I've heard that is the reason why my toenails and my toes look so weird, that I don't even have a toenail on one of my toes. Another few were like real weird in the way that it's basically all just kind of a weird mess, and it always has been. Oh God, I think I just like took a picture, but I was like trying to turn the camera around. I was like, maybe I could just like show them a picture of my crazy toenails and stuff, or like put it in the video or whatever. And then like, I can't actually, I'm really not good at this. Anyways, I'll show you. I, of course, no one got in trouble for poisoning the kid or anything, I guess. Pretty bizarre situation, but so my toes look really messed up. I'm kind of a weird one. An antifreeze baby. So I would spend like a lot of my childhood like belly aching, so to speak. Like I was always sick, and I remember always being in a lot of pain. And as a teenager, I always had issues. And then that would go on and through my adulthood. And at some point, I would start to wonder if I had Crohn's disease, and it was basically like having all the symptoms of, a severe, like a disease like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis or, irritable bowel disorder or some severe thing like that. Rather than my family do something to help or like get an actual diagnosis, or even as an adult, like rather than anyone actually diagnose me with anything and then begin to like administer something or come up with some treatment options or plans for me, it was like no one could tell me that there was any one thing wrong. They would just be like, oh, you might have some kind of one of the irritable bowel disorders, but they would never like I don't know. It's just all been pretty weird. You would think that my parents, all through my childhood and teen years, as I had, issues and was sick like that all the time, once in a while they would take us to like a clinic if it was like, if, they could look in and see that our tonsils were swollen or anything like that. But everyone would just say, if you start throwing up, wait 24 hours. If you can't stop being sick for 24 hours straight and you think you need to go to the hospital to get something for the nausea, then go ahead, but stay at home, or that's what they used to tell us. But also in this situation, when it comes to, everybody in town working for big shots like Elon Musk, or, everybody in town being a part of a corrupt cult or gangs or secret societies, or, running experiments on whoever they want, they can easily have things set up to make it to where, even the hospital, your doctors, the clinics tell you that there's nothing wrong with you, or that there is, or that the wrong thing's wrong with you, and give you, a medication that you don't need. Whenever I was in my 20s, I definitely thought that something was wrong with me. I thought that I had an eating disorder. And I think actually it was whenever I was a teenager that I started to struggle, but it was only after going to live with my mother, or the woman who I'm going to just continue to assume is my mother, even though I haven't seen proof of it on paper necessarily, and I didn't watch my own birth on video or anything, so how can I be so sure? I'm just going to continue to assume that that's my mom anyways. I moved in with her as a kid whenever I was about 11, and over the course of the following few years, I began to take food really seriously. It became like one of the most major parts of life. She was really overweight, and she really focused on food, and food was a really big thing to her, and it was part of her social life. It was part of, so many different aspects of her life, and it was easy being around her for that to kind of rub off on everyone else. And it's great to receive giant plates of food, and for there always to be baked goods, and to have a welcoming environment. The coffee's always ready for everybody, and everybody always loves surroundings like that and environments like that. But would you believe it? Sometimes those sweet environments and those, gracious and yummy environments, where there's just so much charity, you might actually be receiving detriment. One thing that can happen is that whoever is making your food and drinks, that they might deliberately add just a little bit more lard or butter, Crisco. They might add quite a bit of that to your food, quite a bit more than anybody would naturally add to their food. They might leave things really greasy. And that's all about, they might add a lot of sugar. They might be making a lot of sugary food, or, at times there won't be, anything really prepared or available, or, quick to eat, unless it's, fudge and, Snickers bars, and, just all of these sweets, and, sweet drinks, Coca-Cola, and, all the sodas, and, all the other weird sweet, like too sweet drinks, beverages that they have for everyone. Bowls of sugar sitting there for you to pour into your coffee, and, super fatty creamer, and just, everything is prepared for you to, it's all set up for you to gain as much weight as possible. And while you're gaining as much weight as possible with all that sitting around, you also have, chicks walking in with what they just made, and now they're passing that out to everybody, and how you'll be rude if you don't take it. Like, well, I just ate, but I guess that I'll. All right. And I am going to bring up this weird, nasty difference between Christians and Luciferians, or pagans, as far as cooking goes, or pagans versus everyone else, basically. And I'm really not trying to offend anyone. This is just really kind of how it is. And I do believe that it's part of the reason why biblically God instructs his people not to dine with the pagans. And that is because for a lot of their different rituals and some of their different magic and practices and stuff, they use bodily fluids. They'll be using bodily fluids in some of their rituals involving food and drink. Some of what might go into food and drink could be urine, could be feces, it could be menstrual blood. I'm sorry to be graphic. This is real. It's really happening. They're really doing it. It could have already been done to you, and you may not even know it. It's that serious. I know that I've mentioned this in other videos before, but as you follow me along, I have to continue to bring some of these things up. So in this situation, I had a crowd of Luciferian and other sick people. Some of them were atheists. Some of them were, other religions that aren't really fond of Christianity either, or aren't really fond of any religion other than their own, and then there were some situations that weren't necessarily so religious bias, and they were maybe more sexually focused. But anyways, in my situation, they were able to film themselves, making a hamburger and putting urine and blood, into all these different hamburgers that would go into a house where I was. And those hamburgers would be passed out to, myself and the little children throughout the household, where I would only be staying a night or three in my passing. And, me and all of those little kids would get really sick from all of the blood and pee that was put on our hamburgers, that everyone, while they were doing it, they were all laughing and having a really good time, on video, because they're getting paid to do this really disgusting thing, and then that video footage was being, sent to the people who paid for it. And, then they would have a really good time, and it would all be a great big celebration and stuff. And then they would be able to all watch me through my eye camera consume this hamburger that they put blood and pee in, and then they would be able to watch me start barfing and getting sick, while they ate popcorn and, hurt little kids and whatever else that the elites and these, world leaders and kings and politicians and celebrities and everything, whatever else that they do in the rooms while they're watching us get hurt. The phrase "grab your popcorn" comes up a lot, and I do believe that it has to do with the elite sitting back and watching this while they're doing their thing. And then, after they watched me barf my brains out, then they would also watch, these little boys walking around with tears in their eyes, because their psyches have been, their psyches are insulted a little bit, and they kind of can feel that somebody just ran game on them and did something bad to them. and now they're suffering, throwing up, and they, you know what I mean? They didn't get to eat that dinner. The dinner was poisoned and wretched, and so, or, you know, somebody had put, you know, toxins in their food, which I'm told in that particular instance, I heard that that was recorded on a surveillance monitor and everything, and that was a really upsetting situation. That was what, like, I usually feel like really embarrassed and dumb when they do this stuff to me, but that time when they hurt the kids too, which has already happened several times before. That's been going on my whole life. They were hurting me as a kid, so why would they care about other kids around me getting hurt or whatever? But that situation in particular really, really upsets me. Because that was like these little Mexican Hopi kids and stuff like that as I was passing through Arizona. And like, I didn't really know anything about the Hopis. I'd always heard all this cool stuff and this stuff about Hopi prophecy, and, you know, you'd think that you'd show up on the reservation. It would be like so cool and stuff. But like, I mean, I never went to the reservation, but basically just passing through the hands of the people who came from that reservation, I found out that like there's a lot of child abuse that goes on there. There's a lot of sexual abuse against children during their rituals that they have. It was really sad. It was really sad and upsetting to go through, to hear about the abuse from that Hopi woman, and then to see how that generational abuse was just allowed to continue as they allowed their kids to get poisoned like that. Like, all for the sake of getting money, they were already a part of a like trafficking, a trafficking group or whatever. And that's how I would be picked up by them, and I would end up at their house and then be, you know, messed with and, you know, toyed with and poisoned, and, you know what I mean, until I was told to leave or whatever, and that, you know, over the course of, you know, a week or less. Now, whenever I was in my 20s and I was being poisoned all the time by my little boyfriends and stuff like that who worked at pizza parlors, and I was getting poisoned all the time by like my grandma and, you know, a lot of different people in my family, both in West Virginia and Texas, because my life was kind of split between those two places. I had a mom in one place and a dad in the other, and I would kind of go back and forth between them and those environments and those cultures. And the poisonings would happen in both places, and it was food additives and then poisonings or adding toxins, or adding fatteners. And so at different times throughout my life, I would mistake what was happening to me as an eating disorder. I would mistake what was happening to me as having an eating disorder, or even as having severe, like, end-stage life diseases. I mean, it got so bad at multiple times that I did think that I was dying, and those were end-stage life symptoms. It began to happen to me just like all of a sudden as I was passing through Colorado a couple years ago. Was it a couple years ago? I'm going to say thereabouts, or a year. I don't know, somewhere in there. I was passing through Colorado, right? And I was actually staying in southeastern Colorado in a town called Lamar. And I was actually staying at the house of the Grand Master of the Freemasons, which was a place I definitely did not want to be. You know what I mean? Knowing that I'm being targeted and trafficked by the Freemasons did not make me want to go to, or make me feel safe at the Grand Master's house anywhere. But there I would be poisoned so badly on such a regular basis that like I would begin to bleed out. Like I know that's graphic. I know it's disgusting, but this is some serious stuff, and it's not just happened to me. It's happened to a lot of other people, and some of them are dead now. And it is happening to other people. I believe that they're going to continue to allow it to happen unless people know about it and they take action to make sure that it stops and that it doesn't advance to some whole other messed up level, which is what they're planning on doing. But anyways, they poisoned me so badly there. And it wasn't really set up for me to keep my food separate from everybody else's at that house because I stayed out in a camper. And sorry, the boat's rocking. I just can't. Anyways, it had happened to me other times. And I mean, this happened to me like for a decade, dude. And I honestly, it happened to me so often back in the day that I got used to it. But then after I ran away from home and I got away from certain people back and forth, I would notice that my digestive issues that I thought was a full-fledged, full-blown disease of some kind would just clear up. These symptoms would just clear up. You know what I mean? And like, I was like, all I'm going to have to do is leave from this place and I'll stop going through this. I'll stop bleeding out like this and I'll stop feeling like this. And sure enough, it took me a while. I basically had to get a different trafficker in another city to pay for my way to get trafficked to him, to Fort Collins, Colorado, and out of the place where I was, which these people were from Fort Collins, Colorado to begin with. So as long as I was going to a place where they still felt like they would have control, then they would allow me to be trafficked there. And by trafficked, I do only I understand that they were trying to skex traffic me, but there are ways that you can be non-compliant in this situation, especially if you're not bound and chained up and being moved around and, you know what I mean, cargo containers with other women and stuff like that. Okay, this is like a slightly different situation. It's one that's not as easy, not as obvious. And it's what they call, you know, people being trafficked right out in the open. I'm sure that you've heard about it before. Yeah. And it doesn't have as much to do with skex, even though that's what everybody wants, as it has to do with keeping an eye on that person and making sure that someone has constant access to them day and night. And of course, I was able to leave from there just in the nick of time, where I made it to the other place and the bleeding stopped. And then I had a whole other an evil environment that I had to figure out how to escape from. And the only way that I was able to escape from that place would be to call up some other traffickers that I met online and have them show up with their RV right in front of that place. And that was the only way that I could escape from there. And that dude in Fort Collins, he had people up in his attic. He had a woman and a child up in his attic, and he'd soundproofed the attic. And it was bad, you guys. At the time, my phones, they kind of would make sure that I didn't have a phone or money, or that if I had a phone that I couldn't afford service, and that I was like just moving around so quickly and there was like no way for me to ever like make money or anything. They were trying to force me into prostitution through it all. And so financial abuse and control was like a huge part of it. And at that time, I didn't have phone service, and I tried to use text now to call the police and tell them about the woman and the baby that was in the attic, just for everyone's information. I'm pretty sure that they got the information that I needed, but it kept cutting in and out. Or the people who have like control over my phone kept cutting it in and out or something. I'm pretty sure that the information was passed to them. The sheriff, she called me, or somebody called me and tried to get information, and the line was just so fuzzy. And I was like at a trafficker's house while they were calling me. And anyways, as soon as we got cut off, it was like they already have all the information. They can either go there and help the woman, or they can just decide to continue to not help, which is pretty much what they do across the nation because they're the ones doing it. And that was just one of the situations across the US where it seemed like there could be some people who were still alive in a trafficking situation who I did speak up about to law enforcement and tried to help rescue. And that was just one of them. And in that situation, one of the ways that I knew that there were extra people in the house, aside from us, was that when the guy ordered from DoorDash, which was how I got poisoned that time in that house, when he ordered from DoorDash, he ordered like a completely different separate bundle of food, of McDonald's food, what was like a pretty big bag, which he kind of like held over to the side. Like he didn't hide it well enough. He just let it sit there. And then whenever I left the room and acted like I wasn't paying attention, he took it upstairs to them somehow. And I'm not sure how he even got up there or like how to even, but it almost sounded like he was going outside to get upstairs. It was really bizarre. Like I was sitting with him when we heard the baby upstairs start crying, and it was real. Like you could, even though everything was soundproof, you could definitely hear that baby get hurt, fall and get hurt, or whatever happened. And he immediately looked over to me to see if I like heard it, but I acted like I didn't. And this is also part of the reason why the people who were responsible for doing all of this to me started to joke about and have other people in my midst joke about how I'm trafficking myself, because in the situations that they set me up in, the only way to leave would have been either to run away on foot, which isn't always the best idea. It isn't always even possible to run away on foot and make it and survive and stuff like that. You actually have to be smart about how you leave these situations. It is a matter of life and death, how you move, how you leave, whether or not you stay. So as much as I mention how disabled that the neural monitoring technology made me basically 15 years ago, I would like for it to be known that I'm still a quite intelligent person, that I healed in tremendous ways, and more from more than just having people perform sick, demented procedures on me without my knowledge or consent, that I've healed from much more than just that. I'm a very resourceful and intelligent lady. Definitely not disabled in any way by any sense of the means, but I don't appreciate the times that you guys did make me disabled throughout my lifetime. So these cats would be able to try different kinds of medications, different kinds of toxins, chemicals, poisons, all different kinds of drugs, all different kinds of things, test those on me and watch through my eye, and then with other physiological monitoring technology, be able to read more about how that was affecting my body and so on. They would use both me and my kids for testing of medicine without our consent. a couple of the medicines that they were working on at the time, I know that they would give my little baby fevers all the time, and they were trying to see which medication actually worked best for baby fevers. And they would find out that the Tylenol didn't work at all, which was why and when they took Tylenol for infants off the shelves. And Motrin ended up being the one that worked the best. And when they figured out which one worked the best, they stopped giving my baby fevers. And I'm not doing anything about Tylenol and Motrin. That's all really freaky stuff. I don't want to hear anything about or from them. This doesn't have anything to do with them. If other people want to talk about it, that's fine, but I don't want to hear shit back from a Tylenol or a Motrin or any of them, because I know exactly what you guys are involved in. I don't want to hear anything from you. Like, the least of my worries would be Motrin. So in trying to make you sick, it seemed like there were maybe some people behind the scenes who had an obsession with seeing feces, seeing people use the bathroom. And of course, if you're being poisoned, or if, people are, making you sick, however they're making you sick, then they get to watch you through your eye camera, throwing up and, just crapping your brains out. If there's any scientists watching, they get to, see what texture and consistency all your poop is every time you take a dump. Everybody gets to see which hand you wipe with, or what you do, what you scroll on your phone while you're on the toilet, and then also they can see when a chick has menstrual cycles and figure out what she does with her pads and tampons and stuff like that. And they actually send people in to take those pads, those used pads, unbeknownst to most of us. Stem cell and DNA research. That's another subject, but I just had to throw it in here because of the bathroom. But we're going to get back to just the eating and sleeping. And I think right now I'm going to go into about the sleeping habits. One other thing that they think is really funny is when I go to sleep, or when one of their victims goes to sleep, they like to have like all this activity happen. Like, my life might be really plain and nobody might come around while I'm awake. But as soon as I go to sleep, my boyfriend or whoever, or my not that I have a boyfriend, I would never have a boyfriend again, but, or my friends, or, my brother or whoever is suddenly in the garage with 16 people, and, they're all having orgies and they're all smoking dope and making videos of it. There's a whole dark web live stream going on in the garage, and you know what I mean? And there's 20 of the neighbors are all involved. I'm just, this is an exaggeration, sort of, but sort of also not. It's kind of like, it was kind of like their way of showing off. It's kind of like their way of showing off how much they can actually orchestrate, and that they kind of like to have this. So they kind of have this mentality about being slave owners and being oppressors that is quite celebratory. They celebrate being deceptive. They celebrate being able to take a person and use them like a dancing monkey, or like, a joke that they can, like a puppet. They, humiliation is part of how they get their energy, how they motivate themselves. They're motivated in dark ways by dark things. So like here, a person might be like me, like trying to actually go to bed at night so that I can have my wits about me so that I can actually survive what's happening to me, because I'm probably not going to survive it if I just never ever sleep and never practice self-care, never even try, especially without the assistance of drugs. So to them, it's like, we're putting our little baby to bed. We're putting our slave, our kid, to bed. And now we get to play and do whatever we want to do. And she will never know the difference. He will never know the difference, because they're dumb and we have them neurally implanted and there's eye cameras and we can tell when they're awake and asleep. We can even make them go to sleep whenever we want. If we want them to go to sleep for 17 hours or 17 days, then that's what we'll do. You know, one time they made me fall asleep for 3 days. They had me out for 3 days in my own grandmother's garage. You know, that was only one of the instances. It's one of the biggest reasons that they'll send a boyfriend or a girlfriend or someone to be in the house, like another adult, to kind of like be your handler or be like a spy. Or that was for me, like they would kind of like send people in because they would pay attention to when I would go to sleep. And, you know, a door that I locked before I went to sleep would just suddenly and magically be unlocked after I fell completely asleep. You know, there might not have been activity all day, but suddenly while I'm asleep, there's activity. Suddenly there's people, you know, at the foot of my bed or standing in the hallway with each other looking at me. Or one time I woke up while I was taking a nap with my baby, and a man walked out of my utility closet and walked out of my apartment. I still don't know who it was. You know, and this was Section 8 housing, government housing, which ends up tying into this a little bit, that I guess if you live in government housing, that makes it to where people have access and the ability to do horrendous and insane things to you. It's almost like the Section 8 housing stuff was set up just for attacks and experiments and organ harvesting and taking children and, you know, illegal surveillance and hidden cameras in apartments and everything else that goes with poverty and crime and children and women who are unprotected. And the government knows that. This is not their first rodeo. So it would be like if relationship after relationship after relationship that you get into, it seems like your boyfriend or your girlfriend is putting you to bed, almost like a child, like your little baby that needs to be put to bed, which is when they lay down with you and they act like they're going to be going to sleep with you for the night, but they're really just waiting for you to go to sleep. They wait for you to go to sleep because when baby's asleep, then they can get up and do whatever it is that is their real job to do. And one of their real jobs, unfortunately, might be to get up and let someone else into the apartment or into the home or room where you're sleeping. It might be a legitimate job that they're getting paid to do. And if they're just getting up and, you know, all this stuff is orchestrated around you and you're not waking up during that, you know, it should signify to you that you were probably drugged somehow and that they knew that you weren't going to be awake during that time frame at all, which is why and how they knew that they could just get up like that and gallivant around. And for those of you who are unaware, the nightlife for people who are drug addicts and psychopaths, for people who, they don't even have to be psychopaths. The nightlife for people who engage in prostitution and drug use, that can be a really fun time for them when they all get together. And, that is what life is about for some of these people, 100% drugs and skeks. And this is where things also turn into affecting one's psyche, or an attack against the psyche, which I will get into. But I would more so like to, with this, focus on the deceptive nature behind it, and how, how joyful these people are to be able to sneak around while you're asleep and do what they do, and celebrate and act the way that they really want to, which they're only able to do when you're asleep, or when you're not in the picture, when you're not there. And it's like, in addition to, getting paid to keep you held hostage, or in addition to getting paid for being your handler, they also get the benefits of, getting to drug you, and wait for you to be out. And then they get to, do your whole family while you're asleep, and all of your neighbors, and just completely belittle and humiliate you. And before you know it, everyone around you is treating you like you're the toddler who needs to go to be put to bed every night, so that their evening and their time and their fun can start. And they get into such a habit of this that if you don't go to bed when they plan for you to go to bed, it really, really upsets their situations. It can really, I've seen these people absolutely lose their minds because they thought that I might be impeding or imposing on an hour or two, or even their entire night that they had planned, that I didn't go to bed, or that I woke up in the middle of the night, or whatever. Like, I've seen these people blow gaskets that they weren't going to see the people that they had set up, or perform the plans that they had for the middle of the night while I was asleep. It was also basically impossible to switch up my routine to make it to where I would never be victimized. I did switch things up to where I was only sleeping for 4 hours a night. At one point, I think I already mentioned that, but at one point I was so fed up and upset with everything that everyone was doing around me that I was like, all right, I'm only just going to sleep for one sleep cycle every night. And if I get the chance alone during the day to take another nap, I'll totally do it. But I'm just gonna, from now on, just try to run on my superhuman strength and just only sleep 4 hours a night, because the level of just exactly all that they were getting away with. They even went and wrecked my car in the middle of the night one night. You wouldn't believe the things that people are doing, tiptoeing around you while you sleep. And in my situation, I had little kids, and it was really difficult for me, and I was really on edge. And as, a survivor of sexual abuses and exploitation and everything, and, that was never dealt with properly, I survived it, but I never got any justice for it. And no one ever even got a slap on the wrist. Those people are still alive and well, and they're trying to adopt my kids. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't have kids anymore, but I won't explain. Just one kid. They didn't get in trouble. No one has held them accountable. And now they're trying to get my kid. So it's a really messed up situation. Sorry, I wasn't ready to hit that topic just yet. So I'm kind of That's going to be a really special video when that happens. And I was explaining before about how worried I got that somebody could be hurting my kids while they slept. And it was even like such a terror to me that I started making sure that my kids were in the same room with me and that we all slept in the same room with me, because I was mortified that people were doing things to them while they slept in other rooms. And not because I had people in my house, not because I was just a crackhead junkie, alcoholic douchebag who just had all these people in my house. No, I went to bed at night. It was lights out. Kids had school in the morning. You know, I had to actually put the house to bed and not let people in all night. That wasn't really, you know, maybe in my early 20s there were people, you know what I mean? Maybe there might have been, or times whenever I sat and smoked pot in the bathroom all night or something like that. Or, you know, nights before my 30s, I think that I would have been like, you know, maybe stayed up all night drinking and, you know, set the kids off to school while I was, you know, a little bit wasted still, and then went to bed. That did happen, but I wasn't actively just having all these people in my house and giving them access to my kids. No, that's not how it was. I was actually terrified that the same shit that happened to me was going to happen to my kids, because none of it had been dealt with or addressed at all. So in this particular situation, and maybe in all of them, the sex trafficking and human trafficking and child pornography and illegal pornographies have all been a part of the situation that I'm in. There's been a lot of sexual criminality, and it's, you know, it's a really severe trafficking issue and network, and it's tied all into this neural monitoring and eye camera technology, you know. So when the FDA just, oh, okay, we're just going to approve of this thing, but no one is, I guess, telling them that it's already being used for child trafficking. Like, it's just so difficult for me. Or the FDA just accepts bribes to say that some technology or another is okay to be used for, you know, whatever clinical or medical reasons, but it shouldn't be allowed because they're already using the technology to have people trafficked and to commit massacres and genocides. Like, they're only using it for murder and to touch little kids. It's a problem. All right. So also, there has been, as I explained before, a sex trafficking ring associated with all this. And I just said that and everything. Literally anybody could be a part of that ring. People who work for the ATF, the FDA, the fucking Hooked on Phonics, Reading Rainbow, you name it. And this also tied into like having an eye camera and people trying to be deceptive and everything. Well, I didn't entirely know that it was part of a like psychic research study until like I started to catch on to that maybe 13 or 14 years ago whenever I was in Texas. But they've used this as a way to gauge and to attack psychics. They've used this technology as a way to like watch and torture people who have psychic abilities. So like they would set things up to make it to where like my boyfriend or ex-boyfriends or whatever, like the dude would literally be in the very next room and he would be with, you know, some hooker back there, you know what I mean? And they would totally be in the middle of stuff and I would know what was going on. I would come around the corner to catch them, and all of a sudden they wouldn't be doing anything anymore, and they would just act like they're not doing anything. And you could see it, the red on their faces and the expression on their faces, and people would be standing around in the garage like, oh my God, I can't believe that these people are fucking with this chick this bad. You know what I mean? Like, people would be like, oh my God. And that's how these situations would be set up. For basically the last 15, 20 years of my life, it's set up to where like people are doing, like, the guys, I will be with somebody and, or I would have friends and they would be in the very next room doing something. And I would walk in and like try to see what it was, or I would know that my boyfriend was cheating on me in another room or in a car. And they would set it up to where, like, in any situation, if your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife is cheating on you, you would obviously want to fucking catch them red-handed. You would obviously want to bust them, like, why are you guys doing this to me? I was like, because they were just doing it so often. And and then they would set it up to where I couldn't catch them. Okay. And it was because I had that eye camera. And there was even one time that the dude was like doing stuff to me, and he showed me like a camera, or he showed me a phone, and it was split up into different like camera parts, like 10, 12 different angles or whatever. And he was like, do you know what this is? He was like, do you know what this is? And I was like, I don't know, your cameras that you have in the vents and stuff. He was like, no. He's like, you don't know what this is? And you know what I think it was after all this time? I think that it was all the people in the house. It was all their eye camera footage. He could see through all their eyes at the same time. So he was able to maneuver around every one of them and do sneaky, weird stuff to them, and mess with them psychically and mess with them physically, psychologically, sexually, and in every other way. And he recorded it all the entire time. He was literally recording everything that was going on in the houses, and potentially had access to record what they saw through their own eyes. And all of it was being recorded and going onto these hard drive things. There were loads of them. And when they described to me how much film these hard drives carried, they said that each one of them carried more, could contain more data than every episode of The Simpsons. And so there were these hidden cameras everywhere, and cameras in people's eyes all throughout that particular trap house, which was also like kind of like a hoe house. Anyways, lots of things went down in that house. And apparently all of it was being recorded. And there were like stacks of these hard drives that were just all from these houses where all of these trafficking victims and prostitutes and all of this skex went down, and people were potentially even bringing their kids in and out of. They had women dancing on poles. They've got every kind of act of prostitution that anyone engaged in that entire household within that time frame. All of it was filmed. And a lot of it was sold on the dark web. People who are going to be most likely to be awake the entire time that you are asleep, you might see them occasionally taking medication at night to go to bed. This is sometimes because a lot of them are hopped up on speed, and they have to take that medication at night to go to sleep at all. So generally, if they're taking a handful of pills to be able to go to sleep, they probably are actually going to sleep that night. And you would assume then that they're going to sleep every night beside you, and that they take those pills every night. But because they are using speed, it is more likely that they aren't going to sleep every night, all night, and that some of those nights they're going to be up and about. So this people sneaking out of bed at night all the time, that weirdness, that is definitely a symptom of all of this. If you have that going on, that ends up tying into the deception, the energy harvesting, the humiliation rituals, all of that weirdness. And then also in my situation, I had, I guess, a twin sister or a copycat and a little sister and a brother, and they were living right directly next door to me without my knowledge. Other times they lived directly above me in my apartments without my knowledge. They were able to maneuver around me without me ever seeing them. So the people that they would set up to date me, like my boyfriends or, friends at the time, they would wait till I would fall asleep. And then that was when life would happen with that person. Or like when they weren't with me, that's when they could go be with my sister, I guess, my brother and sister, or however it worked. So they would put me to bed and then they would go be able to get a piece from my sister, or they would be able to bring her in, and they would all, I guess they would do. You know what? I did wake up to my ex-boyfriend having whoever this was bent over in the hallway. I was able to wake up and look out the foot of my bed into the hallway to where, he had her bent over in the hallway. And it seemed like they were very deliberately standing there getting it on while they were watching me, focused on me intently, as though it was some kind of like Skex magic type stuff or whatever. But it also ties into humiliation rituals, and there's no telling, like, who's to say that they aren't recording themselves doing that every night and putting it on these different, websites or whatever for everybody else to be a part of their humiliation routines and rituals. And then I've also heard of like a secret internet that basically only the acronyms have, where they keep like weird footage of stuff like this. Like there's different levels of weirdness, and that there's certain levels of weirdness that mostly only they have access to or something. And whatever level of weirdness that is, I guess that there's lots of videos of me up there. And even though I'm telling you that with a smile on my face, it makes me really uncomfortable. I'm really upset about it. And I wish someone would have done something to straighten it out and make it right already, rather than pursuing me and continuing to try to exploit me. Like, I've kind of been through a lot and people know it. And it's really insulting and upsetting that no one has come to any, conclusion, or no one has figured out how to act right or do anything about it yet. But, here I am. I know that I had one ex-boyfriend who had like an ex-girlfriend who had a boyfriend, and he was getting medication so that he could sleep every night. And I don't know if that's because of the amount of speed that they did all day, every day, or because he was just a little baby and he needed medication to help him go sleepy weepy at night. Or it was that, it was that. And my ex and his ex-girlfriend and their kid also got this sleeping medication, and they were messing this kid up really bad so that he would get all these different medications from the doctor. Just people were complete trash, you guys. But they would use that little boy's sleeping medication, and they would put it in my stuff, and they would make me go to sleep, and they would put it in her boyfriend's stuff. And so along with his medication that he would take to go to sleep, she would be putting extra medication on top of that wasn't even prescribed to him. And they would each be drugging us in our own, individual places so that those two could meet at nighttime, because she lived on the bottom floor of my apartments to begin with, and I lived on the very top floor, and all that they had to do was drug each other's significant others, and then they could meet up and spend as much time as they wanted to in the night. Also, something else another way that you can tell that a couple or more people in your household or in your environment are getting up and meeting together with each other while everyone else is sleeping, is that everyone else will be really well rested, because of course they were drugged, or they go to bed at the same time at night. They actually do go to sleep. But there'll be two people in the house or two people between a couple households who don't wake up until the same time later on in the afternoon or evening. And it's like, how did you just sleep for, 18 hours? Like, how did that like, how did you just sleep for 12 hours? Like, that's, I don't know. But yeah, as two people, especially 2, 3, 4 people, two people, especially who don't wake up until the same time, way later than everybody else in the afternoon, it should be quite evident that those two people are getting up while everyone else is in bed and they're meeting together. Which unfortunately you may begin to see that pattern between your own boyfriend and girlfriend and your own kids. Which is, when that happens, there's a problem. All right, so recap. When people have access to your eye camera, or to neural monitoring technology, they can suddenly turn it into a funny game to put things in your food. They can turn it into someone's, monthly, daily payment plan, basically, to be putting things into your food. They have turned it into like a sick, like dark web, like this video that we watch on Telegram. You know what I mean? Where we're putting stuff in this girl's food, and then through her eye camera, we can watch her eat the food, actually be dumb enough to eat the food, and and then we can watch her get sick later and even have trouble. You know what I mean? However, she has trouble using the bathroom or whatever. They sent me one time, I ended up running from these traffickers in Liberal, Kansas, and I ended up in their homeless shelter there, where the old women who were cooking the food, like everybody there was like working to try to get me to leave. Well, all of a sudden, all of the dudes were only eating fruit. They weren't eating anything else. They were only eating fruit. They were coming in acting really weird, only eating the fruit. And there'd be all this other food available for us, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But they'd be in there only eating fruit. And I was like, what is going on here? So I was really careful with the food that I was eating. But they had put something in the food to basically prevent you from using the bathroom. And the dudes had gotten a head up about that, which was why they were only eating the fruit. Well, I unfortunately figured it out the wrong way. And I also had to stop eating the food like everybody else was eating. You know what I mean? And, ultimately make it out of there, because if they're putting stuff in the food that they're making for us, then none of the food that I'm putting in the refrigerators, none of the food throughout the whole house is safe. And it's just not a safe environment. If people have those kinds of intentions towards you, then you need to get as far away from that as possible. And unfortunately for me, I could never get away from it. Unfortunately for me, it's a big enough deal to the people responsible for all this that they never get caught for it, that they have been able to have me pursued across the entire nation for years now, and continually have me poisoned and hit with different chemicals and pesticides and, biological warfare that they've done against me, and all kinds of like really heinous, horrible things. All right, food and sleep. And I already talked about how they can wake you up earlier than you want, or make you wake up on their schedule rather than your schedule. So it's just all kinds of messing around with your sleep, and then while you're asleep, and with your food, and then, everything that happens after eating. And I guess just briefly mention it, but I'll save the majority of it for another video, is that when it comes to sending men or women into your life, they also get to sit back with popcorn and see how you react to that, or whatever, how, deeply you get involved with that person or don't, or, just that's a whole other subject, really. But I just wanted to mention it for a second, because it's not just, of course, about eating and sleeping and all of the heinous, horrible ways that they've come up with to absolutely torture a person, both with sleep and with lack of sleep, and with what they do to you or around you while you're asleep. I mean, they've just made, and especially if you're someone who is trying to catch people doing, you know what I mean? I was talking about that. Okay. And then they would kind of set it up to make me think that maybe something was going on with my kids. And so I was always trying to catch that, you know what I mean? Is something happening here? Are they just making it look like that? Or am I just having those thoughts because that's what happened to me whenever I was a kid? I mean, what is really going on here? And they would basically do all these things and set all this stuff up to make everything a big giant mystery that you were trying to figure out all the time, which was really horrible. And they would just do that year after year after year after year after year. And try all you want, I've never ever caught any of those people who were actively with these people in my cars, in my home, in the very bed that I slept in. They were with all of these people. They were cheating on me. They were screwing my own sisters right next door to me, right underneath my nose. And I was never able to catch them, even the way that a normal person would. Even somebody who's not even somebody who isn't psychic and doesn't have any gifts or skill at all could eventually catch somebody if they're molesting a kid or if they're fucking somebody else. But they set it up to where I couldn't catch anyone doing anything ever. Ever. They set it up to where I couldn't even catch anyone the way that a normal person would be able to catch them. And they were able to orchestrate so much around me. And they were able to do so much to me. And they waged so much of a war against me and so much destruction in my life. You wouldn't believe the amount of destruction and devastation that I have had to walk through and endure in my life because of this shit. I was really, really trying not to cuss, and I really don't want to get too passionate or too emotional. I'm really trying not to get emotional about it, but it really is that bad. I mean, they really used it to destroy my life over and over and over again, and to just introduce trauma and chaos. And it's just been just absolute devastation, just absolute trauma. And no one has answered for it ever. No one has ever apologized for it. No one has ever done anything to make it right. And on top of that, nobody's figured out how to act right either. I'm not done there. Obviously, there's still plenty of other ways that I can describe how messed up you guys are and how messed up the whole situation is. But I'm going to end it here for now. I'm really glad that I was able to get on here and make this video. I know that I'm not the best videographer. I know that I'm not that, entertaining or whatever. I don't have the same equipment or help that other people have. I'm using a busted $20 tripod. I'm using a crappy $40 phone. Literally, it's so busted up and cracked up that you can see the components underneath the glass. I have pieces of glass stuck in my thumbs from using my phone. This is, and I'm really grateful to at least be indoors right now. I can't say that I'm in the situation I necessarily would want to be in, but I'm at least sort of okay. I'm not being sexually harassed on a regular basis or anything. I don't think that people are hurting me while I'm asleep here. Also part of the sleep trafficking and funny games with the neural monitoring and eye cameras, part of the illegal pictures and videos do have to do with me being asleep. And all across the US, they would have these dudes record themselves masturbating while I would be asleep. They would record me while I was asleep, and they would be doing that. And I guess they were sharing it on Telegram or something like that. And people get paid, and they get mailed cocaine in the mail and all this stuff for doing work for. I guess it's fucking these funds that have to do with Elon Musk and stuff. Anyways, it's really terrible, you guys. And this isn't all that I have to say, but thank you for listening. And for anybody who really has a heart over any of this, just thank you so much. And peace out. Hopefully I'll get another video made in another one before the end of the day or whatever. I had like a really weird last several days where something happened weird with a car, and there was this marketplace dude who like deliberately like just did some real messed up stuff to us over this truck that someone bought. And anyways, I guess I'll just leave it at that. All right, peace.